Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our new friend, George Michail. We're here to break down Cover of Darkness, issue 1 through 6, and an awesome card game as well. But before we start, George, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I had the opportunity to check this Kickstarter out, and it looks so brutal and gruesome, and I am loving it, man. Before we dive into that, though, I'd like to start off with a little bit of a deep dive into who you are and how you got into creating comics.
So I was a 80s, 90s kid, and I just grew up with Tim Burton's Batman, the X-Men cartoon, Batman the Animated Series, and so I just kind of grew up loving this stuff, and those got me into the comic book store at a young age, collecting Jim Lee, Chris Claremont, X-Men, and I had a copy of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, and I wore that book out, dude. I was just at the table every day, and I got kind of afraid of being creative. I was nervous about putting myself out there. Had a lot of fear of rejection, and then in my mid 30s, I was in a horrific car accident. I broke my back, and it kind of just gave me a good jolt. And I was life is short. Am I just going to be afraid my whole life, or am I actually going to try and do this thing that I've always wanted to do? And so I kind of mustered up the courage to start working on a book, and I spent 6 months writing my first comic book script, and I sent it to a professional artist, and he's like, "This is cool, man. You should definitely pursue this. You've done the work. This is a good story." And ever since then, I've been kind of off to the races.
So was Cover of Darkness your first dive into it?
No, my first series was called Fire Engine Red, and it's kind of like Die Hard in a forest fire. It's about a female firefighter that has to rescue her. Sorry, it's been a while since I've done the pitch. She has to rescue her boyfriend, save the hostages, and take down the armed mercenaries. But there's one problem: she's more at home in a burning building than in the flames of romance. So
I love it, dude. That's awesome. Is it a Christmas story as well? I mean, Die Hard is. So I mean,
no, it's not set in Christmas. So that script, I actually sold it to this startup company that's called Comic Stream, and it was a digital comic book company. Paid me real money for the story, and they hired Ali Garza, who worked on Teen Titans and Supergirl, to illustrate it.
Wow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the app is gone under, so the rights will be reverting back to me, and I'm going to be publishing it actually through Source Point Press.
How does that, dude? That is such a perfect coincidence, right? You get paid for it, and then it comes right back to you. It's let's go, baby.
Yeah. It's been a long process though, because I wrote that script 5 years ago. So I just I wanted to get out into the world, desperately. But the money was cool and stuff, and getting hooked up with someone as talented as Ali Garza for my first comic book series, that was amazing. But that is remarkable. So how's that work? They just stopped being a company, so the IP went straight back to you, or? Yeah, there's a clause, they had to publish it within 3 years, and they never did. So,
dude, that is, I guess I've never as a consumer and just a podcaster, I never really got to see the back end of stuff like that. So that's to me just mind blowing that happened. It's the way it worked out perfectly for you to almost double dip it.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm just really excited for people to see it.
That's so cool.
You put so much time and effort into I spent 6 months writing that script every day, and I'm ready for it to be out into the world.
And you said that was your first one?
That was my first one. Yeah.
So that it sucks too, because that was your most coming off of that car crash. That was the one you put your heart into, right? And they didn't see the light of day. That probably sucked.
Yeah, it's been a long process. But that's one thing with comics, man. It's hurry up and wait. You work and you work and you work, and then it just this Cover of Darkness was my second series, and we started working on this 4 or 5 in end of 2018. So it's been solid 4 years, and it just came out to stores January 1st of this year was issue 1 came out. So it was a 3-year process to get it out into comic book stores.
And it's been on Source Point Press since issue 1?
Yes.
That is so cool, man. Congratulations on that. Like coming off with your first script, it gets bought up, and then your second book gets picked up by a publisher. That's remarkable, man.
Thanks. I met those guys at conventions. You know, like they do a lot of shows, like up to 70 a year. And in 2019, I had like my first 3 issues of Cover of Darkness and like a little tiny graphic novel. And I was just going around to shows. I did about 20 shows myself that year, and I kept on running into the Source Point Press team. I thought they would be like kind of the perfect home for Cover of Darkness because they do a lot of horror, and I thought like this would really kind of fit with what they're doing. And so I just kept on like pitching my book to them over and over again, and they're like, George, okay, man, like, we've met you, we know you, the book looks cool, and then it's just like, why don't you come out for dinner with us, or why don't you, like after the show? And so just kind of getting to know them, and then a couple years later we put together a deal, and the pandemic in the middle of things kind of slowed it down, the release, but it came out this past January. And so what we have right now is a Kickstarter for the hardcover.
Dude, I love that too. It's just like the story of being persistent, eventually paying off. Like, you always hear that story, but to actually like see it happen in real time, like that's awesome. How'd you feel about that when they were like, hey, enough, come out to eat with us, let's talk business? Like that had to have been like a really surreal moment.
Yeah, well, the truth is, like, convention, like, life can be kind of lonely. Like if you're just on the road, like, okay, so my first like real big tour that I did, I booked a bunch of these like Wizard World shows because I thought, Wizard Magazine, these are that's a big company, like these shows will be great. They were really small. Like I booked like Madison, Wisconsin, and like Austin, Texas, and there's just like Columbus, Ohio, and they were just like tiny shows. And I realized like really quickly, like if I like stay at hotels and eat out like every night, I'm gonna lose like so much money on this tour. Because I did 4 shows in 4 weeks, and ended up just like picking up a mattress and throwing it in the back of my van, and like sleeping at like truck stops. It felt kind of like indie rock, like, man, like,
dude, I love it though. Like,
yeah, I'm doing this, but at the same time, I also kind of felt like, the crazy guy down by the river.
I mean, it's that mentality though that got you to where you're at, man. I love these stories so much. Throwing the mattress in the back. I want to start attending cons so bad, but I have 3 kids, and it's so hard to balance like the ability to be able to travel and still like maintain like, being a dad and everything, like trying to find that balance. Because for me, I'm actually in Ohio. So when you said the small show in Columbus, Ohio, I was like, oh no. But I've been wanting to like Baltimore. That's been one I've been really wanting to hit up, like San Diego. All those, man. How'd you like get into attending cons? You just find out where they're popping and sign up for them, or?
Yeah, well, I was lucky because like my first book was picked up by the Comic Stream publisher, and I became friends with someone that was a big part of it there. His name is John Delaney, and he's an artist that worked on Justice League Adventures, Simpsons, and Futurama for Bongo. And we became good friends. And I was like, man, I want to go do these shows. And he's like, all right, man, like let's book some stuff and like figure it out. And so I kind of had like an association with him, and it's like, because he's like, yeah, you book it, and and we'll go together. And so I just like I'd write the different conventions that I was interested in attending, and it's like, yeah, me and John are interested in coming. This is his credits, these are my credits, and they'd be like, yeah, sure. And so it just kind of worked out that way. And then getting to know like the people who run the conventions, like if you're an indie creator, that's like really essential. Like kind of get to know who's running the shows, and be nice to them, give them a copy of your book, and let them know that you appreciate them having you. If you're an artist, like do a sketch for like the guy who's running the convention. Like it sounds like a no-brainer, but like so many people don't do it.
I wouldn't have even considered it, but it makes total sense now that you talk about it. Rubbing elbows, making sure you take care of them as much as they take care of you. That can go a long way. So let's dive into Cover of Darkness, though. I mean, I'm looking at the cover, and this is so grotesque. We got like a werewolf dripping in blood. I mean, you said it's filled with horror. Give us a little bit about, the concept of the story and, what it's about.
Cover of Darkness is like Game of Thrones meets Universal Monsters. So it follows a family in medieval Romania that gets separated from each other, and they encounter vampires, werewolves, the mummy, creature from the Black Lagoon. and Frankenstein. It's about their journey back to each other. And within that family, there's twin shapeshifters, boys that can turn into animals. So you
Oh,
got
that's
gorillas
awesome.
fighting werewolves. Thank you. And we've reimagined the classic horror characters. Like in our version, the werewolves are Vikings. Frankenstein comes from the island of Atlantis. He's resurrected by his widow, Dr. Mary Frankenstein. But it goes terribly wrong. The same restorative properties that brought him back to life reanimate the dead. So he's like the very first zombie.
I love that. I mean, how was it like getting to play with these characters and kind of put your own spin on them?
Yeah, it's a blast. Like, so I grew up like watching like Monster Squad. I don't know if you're familiar with that movie, but it came out in the 80s, and it's like a bunch of like kids, kind of like the Goonies, have to like take down like the monsters when they come to town, because like none of the adults believe them that they're there, and it's all the classic monsters. And I watched that when I was 5, and it just like scared the pants off of me. And ever since then, I've had like this like love-hate relationship with those characters and kind of been a bit obsessed with them. But I wanted to do like our own take on them, like not just tell the same story that everyone else has like done before, but like do a new version of it. And it's been fun. So me and my co-writer Chris Cam sat down, we plotted out the whole series. And this is just the start of it. We have it planned for about 18 total issues, so like 3 6-issue miniseries.
Yeah.
And so this hardcover is the first 6 issues collected. And every issue goes back and forth between our family's adventure. They're on a collision course with the monsters and the monster's origin story. So you get a standalone monster origin story in every issue, but they're all connected to each other.
So you're planning on having close to 18? Or is it gonna... That's awesome, dude. Yeah, let's go. How many pages are we looking at, like, per issue?
Per issue, we're like around 22. But in the hardcover, we've got like 160 pages.
Wow. That is awesome, man. I am loving it. And that's not just it. You have a card game that is accompanying this as well. I mean, give us a little bit about that, because this sounds like such an awesome game. You can play it in roughly 15 minutes, I think, right?
Yeah. So I was playing this game. It's like this old card game that you play with like playing cards called golf, where you need to you get dealt a set of cards face down, and you're only allowed to look at them one time, and then you have to try and make pairs from like the draw pile or the discard pile, and if you get pairs, you even out your score to 0. So that's golf. It's a really fun kind of drinking game. If you're like hanging out with people, you can be social and talk with them and play this game. But you like end up screwing yourself over because like you forget where you place the cards. So we took this basic game, and that's been around forever, and we reverse engineered it. We included these like beautiful tarot card size cards with like awesome monster art on it, and now you're trying to build the ultimate monster army. And so if you get 2, 3, 4, even you can get up to 6 of a kind with the wild cards of these monsters, then you like get like huge point bonuses. And we've added specialty cards into the mix. So like there's a goblin card where you can steal someone else's card. There's a gravedigger. Thank you. There's a gravedigger card where you can go through the discard pile and like take the card you need. There's even like death cards that hurt you, attack cards, weapons, allies. Like there's all sorts of stuff. So we've really expanded on this basic concept, and made it like super cool.
No, that is so cool. I think right now would be the perfect segue. Let's go ahead and pull up the Kickstarter and look at this and see what all the hype is about. Cover of Darkness, hardcover and card game, deluxe hardcover graphic novel collecting Cover of Darkness issues 1 through 6, and our brand new monster theme all ages card game. Currently at $3,962 of a $3,653 goal. 82 backers with 5 days left to go. Congratulations, man. How's it feel to have funded?
Yeah, it's good. You know, this is my 3rd Kickstarter that I've ran personally. And when I first started out, it was like 90% like friends and family. And like it was a grind, right? Like just like calling up like, hey, remember when I made you that like mixtape back in high school? Like, can you back my like comic book, please? And you know, what's nice now is like this thing is starting to get some momentum, and like 90% of the people that have backed, or maybe 95%, you know, they're not like friends or family. They're people that are actually like really interested in this. So that's really cool.
So did you, when you did the Kickstarter, have it like for issue 1, or did you start off with like a later issue?
So I did a Kickstarter for Fire Engine Red issue 1, and then I did a Kickstarter for Cover of Darkness issue 1.
Okay. Yeah, because I was, you said something about it being at the con and having 3 issues. So I was wondering if maybe when you started it, you kind of started around that time frame too with it. So with your second Kickstarter, did you notice like a little bit of a dip? Like friends and families, like, you know, like, oh, I got you this one time, you're on your own this time. Like that's something that I hear is kind of common with second Kickstarters.
Yeah. It was about like, it was still quite a bit, friends and family, but I dropped my ask like quite a bit. So like the first one I asked for 5,000, which was like very ambitious. I didn't realize. And the second one I asked like for 3,000. And this one this is 5,000 Canadian dollars.
Okay. So you haven't done any Kickstarters for like issue 2, 3, or 4 or 5?
No.
Wow, that is remarkable. So how's that been? Like, is that all like Source Point Press like handling it for you, or like?
Well, I was selling it like independently, like at conventions, and honestly, like I like doing the graphic novel route better. Like you know, especially at conventions, as an indie creator, your price to print is like so high. So like, you know, to print a floppy, like a single issue, you're looking at like $5 at least as an indie. You know, printing a couple hundred copies, and then you're trying to sell a single issue for like $10 to $20, and it's really hard to like make any money, and it's not as great of value to the customer. Whereas if you can, as an indie creator, if you can like get your graphic novel printed for like, you know, $7, you can sell that for like $20 like, all day long at a convention. So and the customer feels better about it too, because they've got something that, you know, they don't feel like they're just donating to your cause. They're like, hey, I got something of value here. This is a substantial amount of reading here.
I don't know if maybe it's because I'm getting older now, but like I'm finding myself moving far away from the floppies and getting the graphic novels. Like in the beginning, I wanted to get as many floppies as possible because I just loved collecting. But it's like that graphic novel, you know, it's just nice. You put it up on your shelf. You could, you know, see the name on the spine. Like there's, you know, it's just like the experience in itself.
Yeah, no, we tried to do something a little different. I'd like to take an opportunity to shout out our artist. MJ Hiblin is our series artist. The guy is like a mad genius. He does everything digitally with his finger. He doesn't use a pencil or a stylus. Yeah, he's insane. You should follow him on Instagram, like at MJ Hiblin. If you just type in that, it'll come up. I think it's at MJ Hiblin Art. He's got like 250,000 followers, and he's got like so much cool stuff up there.
That is so like wild. He does it all with his finger. Like I interviewed someone who said they did that from their phone with their finger, and I'm like, dude, how? Like I can't even do that with a pencil. So like the fact they're doing it with their fingertip, like, and this art is like detailed. Like look at this, is insane that he's doing that with his finger. Holy crap. That is awesome. So while we're here, let's give out the rest of the creative team a shout out too.
Yeah, so Chris Cam is my co-writer, and we're actually cousins. Yeah, so we grew up together and we're super tight.
That's really cool.
She's a bit of a scaredy cat. Like she's not like, she doesn't watch scary movies. She's into like horror literature. So like the classics, like paranormal, romance, that sort of stuff is like kind of her jam. And I'm like into slashers and, you know, monster movies. And so like together we combined to kind of put this thing together.
It's like, hey, I want you to write a book, but the catch is you're probably going to be afraid of this thing.
Yes.
And then the man of the hour, George himself. Dude, this is awesome, man. I'm loving just how detailed all this. I still am mind blown. He did this with his finger, dude. Like this is like, so how long does it take him to do a page?
He can knock out a page in like in a day. Yeah.
Wow.
So here we've got one of our shapeshifters, right? So he's turned into an anaconda and he's battling an albino werewolf girl. You know, if you like stuff like that, it's kind of,
yeah, dude. Yeah. This is awesome. This is gorgeous too. I'm still like mind blown, man. Holy crap. So once again, a dark fantasy series featuring reimagined classic horror characters in an all new shared universe set in medieval Romania. When a family is separated from each other, they encounter villains and creatures they never knew existed. An epic journey where gorillas fight werewolves and a steampunk Atlantean Frankenstein topples cities, man. This is one hell of a ride in a full 160 color page deluxe hardcover book. Let's go ahead and check out some of the, oh, right here's the card game too. So let's kind of check this out too. Yeah, this artwork is gorgeous. So did he do the art for the cards too?
Most of the art is like covers and splash pages from the comic. But yeah, he did all the art. Yeah.
So he does coloring and that too?
Yeah, all
Dude.
visually, all with his finger.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, let's go ahead and scroll down here and check out these tiers. So you can get the digital download of this for $10. You have the card game at $22, and this is also going to include a digital PDF as well, so you'll get the chance to read. Is that going to be all 6 issues?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's outstanding for $22. We have the hardcover, which collects the 6 issues at $40, and then the card and hardcover, or excuse me, the card game and hardcover combo at $55. So, man, outstanding prices. Like this is great. You know, what was some of your influences for coming up with these tiers?
Well, I really wanted to keep it lean and mean, like simple, so it's not confusing. The only thing that might be a bit confusing is that these prices here are US prices, the 55, the 40. And when you go to back the campaign, it's in Canadian dollars. So there's a conversion there. But yeah, just keep it simple, you know. And I wanted to keep it prices that like, so if you run into me at a convention and, you know, and I've got like we're only doing a limited print number of the hardcovers, but I might have some at a convention down the road. I didn't want you to like, hey, wait a minute, you're selling it for this price, and I backed it for, you know, twice as much of this. So I didn't want anybody to feel like hard done by. So like these are the prices that I would sell at a show. So,
you know, and there was like some Discord in Twitter a few weeks ago about that, like people who would like they do their campaign. They fund it and then they go to like, you know, they can get it online for like half the price or something, and like people being upset about that. So I think that, you know, was awesome that you kind of like worked to work against that and make sure that didn't happen. Let's go ahead and head back to our main screen. So after going through that Kickstarter, George, what would you like to say to anyone who might be on the fence about backing?
You know, if you don't want Halloween to end, you know, if you like monsters and you like, there's also a good amount of fantasy in the series too. Like we haven't really touched on it. There's goblins and orcs, there's mermaids, there's even dragons in it. So, and it might sound like we're kind of throwing the whole kitchen sink at you, but it really does make sense with these monster origin stories. We take our time with each character. I hate when you watch like a horror movie and it follows like the final girl for like the whole time. And it's like, I'm here for the monsters. Like, what are you guys doing? And so we really split our time. So you get like half of each issue is dedicated to learning who these monsters are. And then the other half follows our family. And if we do our job right, by the end of the 6 issues, you're rooting for the family and you're really invested in them. Because I know people are already like psyched for the monsters. You know, so it's a good series. Like, you know, if you're on the fence about it, I'd say there's like a ton of competition in comics. Like it's really, really tough to break in. And we were picked up by a publisher, which I think should speak to the quality of it. And, you know, I think it's a good story, and it kicks off like an even bigger story. So like that was one thing that would hold me back sometimes. It'd be like, you know, it's just a one and done. This is like the start of something really cool that you'll be able to enjoy for years.
Yeah, and we're only a third of the way in, so it's, you know, we're not even up that roller coaster yet. We're just right at the beginning. No, that is awesome, George. I gotta ask you real quick though, kind of going off of that. What was your thoughts on Werewolf by Night, the Marvel movie that just dropped? Like, did you think they did a good job with that? Because that was kind of like a shorter one. But you know, I don't know. I'm curious. What's your thoughts on how they did it?
I loved it. I loved the kind of throwback to old monster movies, and I wanted more. Like honestly, I wanted to kind of get to know the characters more and like spend more time in that world. And to me, that's a sign of something awesome.
Yeah, man, I love when I forgot who it was, the bigger dude, when Man Thing like grabbed his head and just like incinerated him. I loved it. It was so awesome, man. So George, before we wrap things up completely, I always love asking a piece of advice for anyone who might be new and listening and watching. So with that being said, for anyone out there who is looking to get started with writing or art and maybe having trouble just getting started, what advice would you offer them to help motivate them to begin?
I'd say just do it as like the biggest thing. Like you can kind of be afraid, like I was for years and years and years, and just start doing it. Just make it happen. Like write every day, and just work like even just a little bit towards your goal every day, and that adds up. And then the other piece is to have an objective eye. Like really try and step back from what you've made and look at it. I'll kind of compare it to like putting up like a kitchen backsplash. Now, you've been in like people's houses, right? Where like they've done it themselves and it looks like garbage. And it's like, dude, you knew it looked like garbage, right? You knew those lines weren't straight. You knew that grout was like coming over. And you've been to people's houses where it's like they've done it themselves and it looks amazing, and you don't know that they've done it by themselves. They've figured it out. They've had an objective eye and they've looked at it, and when something was wrong, they fixed it. That's what you need to do with your comic book. You know, if you're trying to create something, take a step back and look at it and be like, all right, if I'm reading this for the first time, or if I'm looking at this art for the first time, would I think it's good? And, you know, and if it's not, fix it.
No, I love that. That is some awesome advice, and I like that backsplash like imagery you gave. I think that was like a perfect like kind of example to give. George, real quick, what social media platforms can everyone find you on?
I'm on Instagram is my main one. It's at Comic Book George. On YouTube, I have a comic book show where I interview people as well. It's called Inside Comics. And I have another channel too that I'm like really excited about. It's called Inside Movies. And it's me and like 3 other comic book writers like reviewing like 80s and 90s action movies.
Oh,
and
I'm so jealous, man. That is so cool.
Thanks. To find that one's a little bit tough to find. Type in at Inside Movies 1 and in the YouTube search button, and we'll come up right at the top. So yeah, those are the best ways to find me.
Man, I've been trying to do something like that, but like with just like newer movies that drop, like Black Adam and such. It's so hard to find people like to come on and like critique movies with you. No, that is so cool. So what's been one of your favorites that you guys recently done?
We recently did A Nightmare on Elm Street. And,
that's a good one.
Yeah, we had a blast because one of the people on the team like hated it, and we were like, "What are you talking about?" So we had a good conversation over that. Yeah, it was fun.
That is awesome. Once again, everyone watching, it is a beautiful Thursday. Make it even more prettier outside by backing this campaign today. Right here is that link. And if you can't back it, just simply retweet it, put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram, anywhere that there are people, put this out there and they will come. That being said, George, thank you for swinging by. This has been an awesome podcast. Everyone watching, have an awesome day. But most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.